officially taken control. It is 12:05 on the East Coast, and we are ready to just about get this party started. Once everybody gets in. Mr. Foote, how do you do? And would that be, who else just got in here? David Perdue, how do you do? We have a lot of things on the agenda today. So I will send over. Yes, I believe we are using. I think we're gonna I'm gonna send all the bills first to the House, and then. Oh, cool! He's recording the session, so I guess okay. Well, I'm just gonna kind of send everything over to the House first, and then we'll I think send it to the Senate. Correct me if I'm wrong, but the rules are kind of pretty lax when it comes to the House and the Senate because we technically don't really have enough people representing their party. Like Mr. Foote, you'll be representing your party in both the House and the Senate. So I'm gonna go ahead and send the Fair Tax Act right now to the House. You guys can look that over. This will be the first, I think, on the agenda. We also should have a welfare reform bill coming. On who might that be? The election expert. I have no idea who this is.
Hello.
Welcome. Hey, what's going on?
I just joined the server and I ended up in this voice chat. So yeah.
Yep, our session of Congress is underway as soon as Mr. Guardsman gets here because he is the speaker. I don't know where FDR is. That's the thing. So I don't think he's on Discord. We can proceed in the Senate with Senate Majority Leader if FDR is absent, because that's kind of what we did with Mr. Harrison. He proceeded as Senate Majority Leader last time. Does anybody have any objections to the Fair Tax Act, number 1? It is Mr. Perdue. It is in the House. I sent it to the House channel in the legislative branch category. Okay, that's good to know. Now, I guess just while we're waiting on Mr. Gore and Mr. Guardsman, if Mr. Gore might not even actually show up, but as we're waiting for them, I just kind of wanted to present this. So, Mr. Foote and I were talking, and I think are we going to be keeping the House of Representatives just stagnant at 435, whether or not, however many. Mr. Perdue objects. All right, let's see what he's got. It should not raise the minimum wage. I actually have to be honest. Well, that's the thing, though. Yeah, I think Mr. Foote makes a decent point. I think I've heard a lot of people talk about, though, how, if you raise the minimum wage, it would destroy people who, work for tips, and it would essentially destroy a lot of these jobs. And we kind of do want to keep, it is estimated that a minimum wage supposedly would actually kill 1.5 million jobs. So that's just something to keep in mind. On the Fair Tax Act. All right. Yes. Okay, you know what? Where's Mr. Guardsman? Because he kind of needs to be here. Yeah, I mean, I think the minimum wage I personally don't believe that the minimum wage for people working for tips should be the same as, because it's supposed to be, if you're working, the minimum wage being raised to $15 is meant to be a living wage. And people who are working for tips also have to realize, though, that, businesses are not necessarily paying them as much, and that they're kind of going to be living off of the tips a little bit more. But I think raising their wage to, I believe it was $8 in the bill. I think that's a decent. I don't know. The individual tax rate people making 1.2 million should not be raised. Why not? Give me a reason, Mr. Purdue, because that is likely not going to be taken out. That's okay. Well, anything that has to do with tax raising and lowering, that's likely not going to get. That's likely just not going to get taken out. I don't think I'm going to budge on that. Corporate tax rate will get raised, and people making 1.2 million, they will have their taxes raised. That's kind of something that I'm not willing to budge on, because people making more money should be taxed more, in my opinion. Well, I mean, yeah. When's the last time a billionaire had their taxes raised? Well, the federal corporate tax rate was 35% before, so raising it to 31% is still pretty generous. And we also need that 10% because that's going to get used in the Affordable Education Act. That's 140 billion in extra money that's going to be able to be used so that we can distribute that money to schools. That's the Affordable Education Act that's being used for. Yes, the fact. I mean, honestly, I really don't know. We were supposed to be talking about it in the House debate channel, technically, but I guess we're talking about it in general. It's fine. Mr. Ossoff, welcome, welcome. Mr. Gore, welcome. So I guess we're waiting on the Speaker of the House right now because he has declined to show up at this point.
Because I didn't see the people in the general VC for a 2nd I thought it wasn't happening. Then I scrolled down and just see like a wave of people in the legislative one.
Everybody. Yes, we're debating right now the Fair Tax Act.
Very interesting.
Oh, and Purdue and Ossoff, they're going to be going at it. Well, originally we were gonna have the federal minimum wage be $12. Now, supposedly the minimum wage is actually already at $15, and supposedly Mr. Coolidge signed that. Now, once again, we don't have records of this. This is kind of we're kind of starting to keep records right now. So, Mr. Coolidge's presidency, a lot of what he did has been lost to the mists of YouTube, unfortunately, unless anybody can find that.
Yes, very sad. The date? Well, let's see. What's a good date?
I don't know. I'm kind of in the middle of something.
January.
Sorry about that.
January 2021. That's a good idea.
Signed election security laws. Yes, we also, next session of Congress, we will likely have some more election security. $17. Yeah, that's, well, I think that a $15 minimum wage, I think, is where we're going to be at for the minimum wage. I don't think, to be honest, everything in the Fair Tax Act, we're likely not to compromise. This is one of those things that we have everything planned out according to the Fair Tax Act being, put through as it is. We want to compromise with people, but at the same time, we do recognize that small businesses, but it will be until 2025. They will have to adjust to this $15 minimum wage. So the thing is, we do recognize that in Mississippi, a $15 minimum wage may be technically higher than it is in New York due to the standards of living. but it's extremely hard to gauge I guess.
I definitely
inflation?
don't think we
I
should go
mean-
that deep into like changing the minimum wage per state to adjust to living wages. Seeing as the minimum wage is not supposed to, it is not necessarily supposed to be a job that everybody lives off of.
Well, I'm with you, Mr. Foot. We do need a living wage. A living wage must
I mean,
happen.
we need a living wage,
$15
but it
is
doesn't
extremely-
necessarily have to be adjusted per state.
Well, yeah, because if you leave it up to the states, though, you have places like Kentucky or Kansas. It's where it's like $5. There's that Wyoming. Wyoming might be $5, but it's like really low, and that's unacceptable. We can always raise the minimum wage later, and I guess we're going to have an independent committee kind of adjusting for inflation. So. I believe it does. So everybody's kind of minimum wage for the states should essentially basically go up to $15 at least. I believe due to the absence of Mr. Guardsman, usually somebody else within the party would kind of take charge and take his position.
I mean, if he's not going to be able to be here, did he say he could and then just hasn't shown?
He was supposed to be.
I mean,
So
he
I
said
would like.
he said it. He acknowledged it because he said it's in 5 minutes at 11.
Yes,
and
I
said,
might
okay.
have to go for 2 minutes because we're calling family from Italy, but that will not take me very long. Well, I was going to actually ask, would I be able to take the speakership?
I added him and hoped. I messaged with an at him, not added.
Yeah. Can you guys give me 2 minutes? We'll give Mr. Guardsman 2 minutes, and if I get back and he's not here, I would like to request the speakership and just kind of take over for him until, if there aren't any objections. I will be back in a second.
TikTok, hopefully.
All right, I'm back. I'm gone for 1 minute, and we've resort to chickens. I applaud everybody here. No, Mr. Purdue, I don't think you understand. That is you. Anyways, in the absence of the speaker, I will now, I guess, just take the speakership. Yeah, we've kind of always just done we've always done the voice chat because it's easier to talk. Oh, yeah. Mr. Bush, please tell me that this is going to go in the YouTube video. This is hilarious. Okay, well, I am now officially going to be taking active speaker, so I am now calling this to order. Mr. Purdue, I will allow you to keep your chicken in the chamber as of now. But, here, can I get a gavel emoji or something? I don't know. Okay, so we will.
Produce the chicken.
Yeah, I will now be deleting any and all messages pertaining to Mr. Chicken from now on.
Mr.
If you would
Chicken.
like to refer to him as Mr. Chicken, I will allow that, but that is to the extent. The Fair Tax Act will now be voted on in the House of Representatives, the Progressive Shrimp Party, and I will send this. Mr. Harrison, I appreciate your sense of humor. Mr. Chicken, I will allow, but anything from there, I'm gonna act like the British politician who's the what's his name? He's like order, order. Who's the guy who goes like that? What's his name? Second, I will be right back. My apologies. All right, I am officially calling this House meeting to order. Oh my lord. Oh my lord. Hi. Well, I will move the chicken debate to the end of this meeting. If we would like to debate whether or not chickens are actually allowed in the meeting, we can get to that later. But the PSP offers all 228 votes in the House in affirmation.
Of the Fair Tax Act, yeah.
Yep, in affirmation of the Fair Tax Act. Love that chicken from Popeyes.
Yeah. Chicken 0. The Fair Tax Act.
Somebody get Mr. Ossoff his senator role. You know,
Somebody give this man
Let me see.
a roll, and then maybe
edit roles. Can I give? Yes. All right. Here we go. Okay, so the Republicans are in negation of this bill, but due to the fact that this bill does have 228 votes and 218 are needed to pass, the Fair Tax Act will now officially. So the act passes regardless of the choices of anyone. That is correct. The Fair Tax Act has officially passed in the House, and we will now move to the Senate. Mr. Kinzinger, if you would like to do the honors of sending our
I love that.
54. I guess we have 54 seats in the Senate because we are out of 104. Mr. Kinzinger, if you're still there.
I think that maybe we should hold off on the chicken debate for at least a bit.
Yes, the Fair Act tax passes to become law.
The Fair Act.
Congratulations, the PSP has just sent through its first piece of legislation.
The Fair Act taxed.
And now we will now have the Affordable Education Act next. I will send that up to the House.
Chicken. Yeah, Purdue.
All right, the Affordable Education Act. just now is getting sent to the House.
No, I mean, like, who doesn't like affordable education?
Yeah.
Like,
Yes, PSP. Well,
seriously.
thank you, Mr. Ossoff. You are part of the PSP, so obviously. And this, we have turned into. This is not what I will have the government look like under the PSP. We are not going to look like a bunch of chickens
Well,
calling
no,
each other
we're not the
chicken.
chickens. I mean, it is William Henry Harrison sending all these photos of David Perdue.
Mr. Harrison, I will now ask that anybody. I am now going to put this out there. Anybody who does send a picture of a chicken or anything like that, they will now be struck in from the meeting.
Struck
From the
it?
meeting. I don't know how to.
What about a rooster? See, here's the thing. The Affordable Education Act will provide students with stuff they need. And, I mean, isn't that what really matters? Not who's a chicken, not who's not a chicken.
Man,
But
Mr. Bush is gonna release this video. We're gonna look like idiots.
aren't we idiots?
Oh yes, Dem reps support the Affordable Education Act.
I mean,
Thank you. We can
like,
get this
who doesn't? Affordable education is always good, no matter. Well, sure you do.
I didn't even read it, but we support it. Thank you. PSP offers
Stuff they need, education.
Yep.
Sorry, Mr. Ossoff. That's the only thing I could think of. Education gives people the stuff they need. As you can tell, I support this bill.
The PSP offers. Well, Mr. Gore, you're going to have a lot of stuff on your desk when we're done with Congress.
I mean,
we're also going to be having Supreme Court nominations and cabinet nominations as well.
Yeah. Supreme Court stuff and cabinet stuff seems to be pretty fine from that angle. Most of
it's 31 votes in favor of the bill. Cool.
Cool. Oh, con trombone at me. Yep.
Mr. Harrison, I guess you are. So 228 votes plus 31 plus, was that 150? Oh no, you guys have 148 in the House. So that's going to equal 407 pass in the House. All right, in the Senate. $54 votes in affirmation in the Senate. Would the NDP and Dem reps be as so kind to do the same? You have, as of now, I actually don't know. You have a lot. Let's just say you have, I think 34. Yeah, 9 and 34. So it's that 54 plus 34 plus 9. So it's at 97 in the Senate. And the Affordable Education Act will pass and become law. Now, it has come to my attention that due to the fact that we do not have welfare reform, and George Bush is, I'm sorry, not George Bush, not the W, but Mr. Guardsman, my apologies.
The W.
Mr. Guardsman is not here. Unfortunately, we will actually have to wait on our Welfare Reform Act, and we may have to push that to the next session of Congress. But the Green Energy Revolution Act, I will now send that to the House. Also, we do have a filibuster in place if anybody would like to use that. You do have to unmute yourself in order to use it. But I kind of thought I prefer Chicken Energy Act. Just saying, yeah, well.
The Chicken Energy Act, yeah.
You guys want to read over that? Okay, I guess I'll read the Green Energy Revolution Act then. The Green Energy Revolution Act, being enacted by the Congress here assembled that all federal buildings will receive 50% of their energy from green energy providers and become self-sufficient through solar panels by 2028. The federal government will work with green energy companies to increase the amount of green energy being produced in America. The federal government will work to move its entire vehicle force to electric vehicles by 2028. The federal government will work to provide green energy power grid for the United States. The federal government will buy land in the Sun Belt states, which will then be used to house solar farms. These solar farms will be built by solar energy companies who will be contracted by the government. The federal government will provide tax credits to green energy companies who not only create but also sustain jobs. The federal government will provide substantial tax credits to companies who move to 100% green energy, as well as tax credits to companies who move 25, 50%, and 75% green energy. The federal government will provide tax credits to individual homeowners who switch to green energy, have solar panels, will get solar panels. Section 3, the federal government will begin taxing companies and corporations for the amount of carbon they release into the air. The federal carbon tax rate will be $50 for every 1 ton of carbon released by the company and corporation. This excludes carbon released from any type of transportation. Section 4, all money raised by the carbon tax will be put into a fund used for every other requirement of this legislation. So this legislation is essentially self-sufficient. And I guess we are now, okay, so if I'm retiring from, wow, okay. Well, if I may ask, could we do a package here and have the Green Energy Revolution Act pass through as well as the Supreme Court nominations? Could we just kind of vote on that right now for green energy? And okay, cool. So then, green energy, the PSP offers, and we are in the Senate, or whatever, I'm just going to do this. Senate approval. The PSP offers all available votes in both chambers for the nominations and green. Oh my lord. All right, Mr. Perdue, this House or Senate, whatever, we acknowledge your existence and we acknowledge your complaint. What is it? Mr. Perdue, did you not hear me when I was speaking extremely fast?
I mean, that's possible.
It's self-sufficient. Yeah, well, yeah.
Chicken's ears aren't necessarily the best in the galaxy.
Yeah, but the carbon tax is set to be bringing in a lot of money. Yeah, we have the budget, Mr. Perdue. We have 400. As long as our welfare reform gets passed this session or next session, we'll have an extra $900 billion.
Okay.
We
need
done
to stop the chicken photos.
Yeah, so once more, the chicken... shoot, I copied the message. I wanted to delete it.
Mostly because they're live chickens. Mostly because the pictures are of cooked chickens and Purdue is very much alive. So they need to be, living chickens next time.
Like, what do you want us to use it for, Mr. Perdue? I mean, what else? What idea could you? No offense to insult you. I'm unsure about the nominations. I'm unfamiliar with these individuals. Other than the NDP. Okay, thank you, Mr. Foote. Yeah, okay, I guess you're kind of new around here, so I don't expect you to be able to have form an opinion on. Like, I try and be as objective as possible.
I don't expect you to have an opinion.
I don't expect you to have an opinion. Pass the Green Energy Act. Well, I'm just going to say this. It can be used for something else that is better. I honestly maybe use the money I spend in transportation. Well, we do have...
infrastructure and transportation are definitely also important.
At the end of this, if we get everything eventually passed in the next two sessions, we'll still have $474 billion
of a surplus
left to use. Yeah, we have a surplus. So if you guys want to put together something within, I would be totally good with passing a high-speed rail at 4. You guys, I'm gonna say this. You guys have $400 billion to work with in the budget. That's what you guys can do. And I'm gonna let the Republicans and the Republicans. You can do anything you want for $470 billion as long as it stays within that budget.
The PSP are not the only ones who are allowed to draft bills.
Oh, yeah. Well, I have to be honest, and Mr. Harrison, I applaud you, but I applaud you for this. I honestly don't think it's right that the Speaker of the House and the Senate Majority Leader get to choose what bills get brought to the floor. In my opinion, if you write a bill, it needs to get brought to the floor. If it gets struck down, that's fine, but I think everybody's voice needs to be heard, and everybody's ideas need to be heard. So the PSP wants to keep it very open. If you guys have a bill, as long as it's within the budget, you guys send through what you guys want, and if we strike it down, we strike it down. But maybe we can hopefully come to a compromise, because I would like to work on infrastructure with you guys. We could definitely do that at the next meeting. The majority leader should only have the power to bring a bill down if it's unconstitutional. I would agree with that. And technically speaking, that would be still the Supreme Court's decision.
It is the duty of the Supreme Court to determine what bills are unconstitutional or not. So I feel like it might be overstepping their bounds.
I think it's still the majority leader should. I think kind of what he's saying is that the leader should be able to say that we're not going to specifically bring this bill to the floor because it's unconstitutional. But then if they do and it gets passed, then it's up to the Supreme Court to decide whether or not it would remain law. So I'm going to say this: the Green Energy Revolution Act passes with bipartisan support. Interesting. I didn't know that. That's cool, though. Well, I guess because of welfare reform, we're going to hold off on that. We're also going to hold off on U.S. territories to states, just because we have to finish up some stuff there. We're going to also hold off on economic growth, hold off on the Death Penalty Abolition Act, because Mr. Gronk is not here. Well, let me ask you this, guys. Would you guys be in favor of abolishing the federal death penalty? What are your guys' thoughts? Because we can honestly... the bill just has that, and then the bill also gives tax credits to states. I honestly don't know if that's a thing, but Mr. Gronk wrote this. But it gives. We're gonna figure out a way to have states. Mr. Rambo, welcome, Mr. Roosevelt, I believe. But he would essentially states would get some sort of credit for abolishing the death penalty on the state level as well. But would you guys be in favor of abolishing the death penalty? Well, Mr. Foote, yes, in general, I believe it was that the majority leader only has the ability. What about I'm sorry. Or what about raising money for improving lifestyle for endangered animals and wildlife? I would like that. Once again, $470 billion extra dollars. So if you guys want to kind of split that between that and what's the other thing? Infrastructure, I would be totally good with that. I'm gonna let the Democrat Republicans handle that right now, just because we still have our. But yes, I would definitely like to do that. Well, I'm just going to put it out there. Death penalty abolition. Yeah, if you guys want to make the bill, if that's okay, if you guys are fine with that. Like I said, $470 billion are yours in the budget. If you want help with that, you can always... I would personally be in favor. Well, Mr. Foote, the Death Penalty Abolition Act, can the NDP offer anything? To abolish the... Does the Green Energy Revolution Act, does that pass with Democrat Republican support as well? I know Mr. Perdue blocked it. Okay, Mr. Harrison, thank you. Yes, there is an actual bill. It's currently not up. Mr. Gronk has to send it. Okay, thank you, Mr. Harrison. I will put that down. Dem rep support as well for Green Revolution. Thank you, Mr. Perdue. This is probably going to be this could potentially be the most bipartisan bill we have as of now. Oh, and Supreme Court nominations pass as well. We have to get those cabinet members. Mr. Gore, would you like to maybe start writing down the cabinet member nominations so we could send those as well?
I had them somewhere here. I had a list of them because there were like 6 of them, if I remember correctly. I hope I'm able to find them all. Wow. But I had there's...
Well, I am going to put them in the
there's the Department of Justice, so the Attorney General. We've assigned that was... Again, I'm forgetting, but I remember that State, Defense, and Homeland Security would be Carlos.
Yeah.
Energy, Agriculture, and Labor was George McGovern. Department of Education
Mhm.
would be Mr. Gronk. Health and Human Services, that was Obama.
Agriculture is McGovern, I believe.
Energy, Agriculture, and Labor is McGovern. And then Treasury and Commerce was Mr. Clinton. So now
I
the only person I'm
believe
forgetting is the AG, who we assigned. I forgot who we assigned to for the Attorney General.
Oh, that was Mr. Attorney General. He told me, Mr. Guardsman.
Ah, okay. In that case, yeah. So that's the list I've got there.
Well, I'm going to put down the death penalty abolition that has officially passed with bipartisan support. May I put you down for bipartisan support, Mr. Foote? I know if you may not want to necessarily support it due to the fact that... Oh, okay, thank you then. NDP does support. Okay, so we're going to also hold off on the Economic Growth Act. The Lobbying Act, that was, I believe, Mr. Gronk as well. We don't have that yet, so I can't bring that up because that was a little bit more complicated. Cuban trade embargoes lifted. I'm going to send this one. This is an extremely, extremely easy one. This one, Mr. OK asked me. And also, am I officially on the Supreme Court now? Or do I still have to be do I have to like take an oath? Because I think the nomination did pass.
I'm pretty sure all three of the nominations did pass.
Yeah. So I'll just have to take an oath. And Mr. Red is great is absent right now, so maybe we could appoint someone to fill his absence if we do have something that comes to the Supreme Court. Mr. Foote, I believe your party would be in full support of a bill to lift embargoes on Cuba, but correct me if I'm wrong. Thank you. I the PSP as well. Mr. Perdue, bill to lift embargoes on Cuba. Do you have an argument against that? I have to be honest, Mr. Foote, I don't know too much about the Cuban trade embargoes. I know there was the whole Cuban Missile Crisis, but I really don't know too much more than that, so I'm not really qualified to speak on that. Going to take a look at it. Yeah, it's extremely, extremely easy. Also, then, we will have a Space Force Organization Act, which I believe, besides cabinet nominations, that will be the last thing. And then we'll have welfare reform and economic growth to talk about later. And I just want to let you guys know that moon statehood, that will be brought up at a different time. As well as the only way that I guess, even if we do pass the Space Force Organization Act, if welfare reform doesn't get put through, the Space Force Organization Act will not be able to take shape. Because that does rely on money from welfare reform. And we need to make sure that welfare reform gets through because that will also allow... No, not supporting it. Okay, that's your decision then, Mr. Perdue. The welfare reform, Mr. Yeah, we could still push through welfare reform. I don't have a physical bill, but yeah, we could still do that. That's fine. Well, I am going to put, though, Cuban trade embargoes will pass with NDP. And I have this all written down, so I'll send this. Yeah, pass NDP and PSP support. And then Mr. Gore will also get these to the past legislation channel. So then Space Force Organization Act. I will now send this. Oh, I hope I took out the thing about the Enterprise. Yeah, if there's a thing about the Enterprise in here, that will not happen. Pretty sure I took that out. All right, Space Force Organization Act. I believe we will also actually be sending through welfare reform. And then economic growth, we will be holding off on. U.S. territories to states. Are we sending that through as well, Mr. Gore, if you want to just DM me? Thank you, Mr. Ossoff. Your support is very appreciated. Okay. Thank you, Mr. Gore. Mr. Perdue, I believe your Mr. Trump kind of started a whole thing on the Space Force. This kind of goes more in depth. I do have to say that was probably the one thing that Trump did that I kind of liked was the Space Force, but Yeah, we're not going there.
It's
Lobby and
Space
act.
Force, guys. We're putting people on the moon. 25,000 of them.
Now, once more, if this gets passed, the PSP still has to renegotiate the treaty. I do want to say
We will probably renegotiate the treaty and renegotiate the moon statehood bill that was
you
going to
still
be
want the Air
passed
Force
next
and
session.
NASA to be separate.
That's-
Well, Mr. Clinton, the Space Force organization costs around $350 billion, which will be taken out of welfare reform, because welfare reform grants us an extra $900 billion.
We gain a lot of money from our welfare reform.
Yeah. We don't, I hate to say this, but we actually don't have a physical welfare reform bill due to the absence of the Speaker of the House. So I cannot grant an actual physical copy of that right now. And I apologize for that. And then U.S. territories to states, if we were to pass that, we would still have to figure out how House and Senate representation, how will the solar panels on the moon be more effective than the ones on Earth? Well, they won't, but it will just, I believe Mr. Bush will be getting in. No, well, the reason why they're going to be more effective is because the moon does not turn, the moon does not rotate. So the moon, the dark side of the moon always faces away from the sun, so that solar panels on the moon will be working 24/7. Yeah, it's on a lock, as Mr. Ossoff. Mr. Guardsman, how nice of you to join us. I have been acting Speaker of the House for the entirety of the session, and we have passed many. Do you have welfare reform ready?
Right now.
Okay, cool. Because we can get that through. We can also get Space Force organization, and then the Supreme Court nominations passed. Also, Mr. Gore, would I be able to be Secretary of State and just kind of work under whoever is going to be
State
House?
Defense and Homeland Security is Carlos.
Okay. Could I work under him as Secretary of State at all? And obviously, just because I've been talking.
Obviously, the
Okay,
whole
cool.
cabinet roles are a bit loosey goosey.
Yeah, I've been working with China, and we do have a treaty that we're going to get signed eventually. And I also want to work with Vladimir Putin to remove troops from Ukraine, but I'm not really sure if that's going to happen. So the moon does indeed rotate once per orbit cycle around Earth. Oh, it does? I thought it was tidally locked. Oh, then that's, I guess,
If it was tidally locked, then we wouldn't see like the stages of the moon, like half, crescent, etc. I think.
I guess that's.
Although I'm probably wrong. Fact check me.
Doesn't that have to do with like the placement of the moon around the Earth? Well, yeah, like you have half the moon, because don't you have like the dark side of the moon, which has never been seen from Earth?
The moon does rotate, just around Earth, not around the sun.
Well, yeah. Huh. Well, we'll have to rethink. Well, Mr. Purdue.
Well, we also are shipping a nuclear reactor up there.
Yes,
which
we are.
Might sound ridiculous. Well. It's basically a it is a nuclear reactor that can function on the moon and is specifically built for that. Scientific Americans.
I'm gonna say this. Why don't we hold off on Space Force organization until the end of the session? Can we get our cabinet nominations through right now in the Senate?
Sure. Let's just pass them through a bunch.
I'm gonna go to the Senate.
Just 6 different positions.
All right, and then after this, we will also have then the welfare reform, as well as, I believe, U.S. territories to state. We'll figure out House representation and Senate representation, because I believe Mr. Foote and I are kind of in favor of just keeping the House at 435 and then redistributing districts based on that. Mr. Purdue, you propose a Mars colony. That's as interesting. I personally believe that a moon colony right now is, I think, better just because it's number one closer. Yes, but the moon is closer and therefore kind of easier. Plus, we kind of know we can also run missions a lot easier, to prep up there. Mars just takes longer. There's a lot of, I think, technical gajarble, as they call it, that goes with making.
That is the scientific word for it. Technical gajarble. Everybody loves a good technical good jarble.
Well, the benefit of a colony on the moon, think of it this way: the human race at some point we need to get off of this rock. I mean, the Earth is great and all, but we need to start, colonizing other planets if the human race is to survive. So I guess the benefit of a colony on the moon would be to start, imperialism in space. Human
And
imperialism in space.
is a bit of a strong word, but it's more beneficial than when we went to the moon in 1969.
Yeah, and I'm not talking about U.S. imperialism. I'm talking about human imperialism.
Yeah. Everybody loves human imperialism.
Yes, we will enslave other alien races because, unfortunately, that's probably something that's going to happen. But we'll figure that out when we get to that. I'm obviously half joking, but we do need to kind of get to Mars is indeed cold. It's cold and unforgiving. Cabinet nominations almost ready, Mr. Gore.
Yeah, I'm trying to be able to send them. It's just the 6 positions, and it's not loading properly on my.
Oh, we'll also need the Senate to ratify that treaty with China eventually. We will also be the second session of Congress. Will also be working on Well, I don't know how moon statehood's going to go. We're going to have to talk about that a lot. That's still something that I don't know if our entire party is still necessarily for at this point. So we'll get to that at a later date.
We should put a poll about. We should make a poll about that.
Yeah, we'll make a poll. Gun control is something we'll be working on in the second session, as well as economic growth. I will put that down. Economic growth, and then the lobbying act because lobbying act. Lobbying act. That one might also have some big debate to it. Yeah, that's fine. I honestly think that we need to at least get a colony up on the moon. Whether or not we actually make the moon a state is kind of a little bit. That was just kind of a 12 a.m. idea that we were all kind of just tired and.
Well, it's still an exciting idea.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. But I think a colony on the moon is definitely that we are going to get that done.
That is definitely important.
That's actually an interesting idea, Mr. Foot, for moon statehood, something like that.
I mean, it is very interesting.
As an interesting on the Discord server. Unfortunately, not many people are very active on our Well, I shouldn't say that actually. We probably actually have about half our Discord pretty much active. The other half are just kind of there.
Mm-hmm.
So once we get our cabinet nominations or welfare reform, we'll also send that, and then the Space Force Organization Act. Yeah, Mr. Perdue, Mr. Gore, President Gore. I should start saying that. Mr. President, is getting those right now for us. Now, if I were to...
just got to type a few more.
I figured, Mr. Perdue, the reason why the Air Force and the Space Force would be kind of one thing is because we were also trying to develop a type of fighter that could fly within atmosphere and in space. And I think that the entire Air Force should be able to have things that can fly in and out in and out of the atmosphere, just because that's something that will have to happen. Yeah, I'm sorry, Mr. Foot. I believe right now that, and I guess this is cool, Mr. Perdue. Okay,
I'm going to now try.
Now, I don't believe. Let me read over the Space Force Act. Actually, make sure that the Space Force Organization Act. Yeah. Nothing here has anything to do with moon statehood.
Now sending my cabinet nominations.
Okay.
Sorry, it's just kind of pretty simple. Education, state defense, homeland security, health and human services, energy, agriculture, labor, treasury and commerce, and the attorney general.
Yeah, I know. It's you're kind of in a little bit of a pickle, Mr. Ford. I'm sorry. Does anybody else affirm these cabinet nominations? I mean, the PSP has affirmed them, so they do pass, but I just want to know if it's going to be bipartisan.
I mean, it probably is. It's just basic cabinet nomination stuff.
I don't disaffirm them. All right, but do you necessarily...
You don't disaffirm them. Okay.
Well, I mean, I would also... I do respect, though, that Mr. Foot doesn't really know who these people are. So I understand.
That is good.
Yeah. All right, Mr. Perdue. I'm also excited that this is getting recorded, so we can go back and watch this, and that'll be very fun. Well, I am just going to go ahead and say that the cabinet nominations do pass. I will say. Okay. The cabinet nominations do pass due to the PSP trifecta. All right, that's fair, Mr. Foote. I do respect your decision.
What's next?
And I do think that's the right. Well, Space Force Organization Act. There's nothing in that says we will be making the moon a state. It just simply says that we will be sending up a colony. It does put NASA and the Air Force under the Space Force, which I think NASA is kind of the more technological, the tech department under that, and the Air Force is kind of, I think the Air Force and the Space Force will eventually need to become one.
But yeah, so the Space Force Organization Act, we've got some Republican support, we've got the PSP support, so they will pass. So that will pass.
Yeah, PSP does affirm. If I can spell this, does affirm the Space Force Organization Act. Does anybody else second this?
Okay.
I do not believe so. So now we're gonna get to welfare reform. Nice. Right on schedule, Mr.
Right on
Arjun.
time.
That was perfect. I was just about to ask.
Let me
for
check
that.
this out.
HR 669. Very, very nice number indeed.
Yes, I'm going to check that out now.
Boy. Are we keeping Obamacare out of curiosity?
Yes.
Yeah, we're keeping the Medicare.
Yeah. That's what I thought. HR 420 soon. Yep, we'll get there. Mr. Perdue, I believe, might be against this. That's going to be my guess, but
I mean, it is a very opposable bill.
I propose a bill to repeal Obamacare. Although I will let you
Struck down instantaneously.
Obviously.
Well, Mr. Garsman is the speaker. I would advise him to. I would advise him to allow you to propose it because we could just strike it down. But if Mr. Garsman does not want to bring that to the House, unfortunately there's nothing
you
I
can
can
bring
do
it
with
to
that.
the House and Senate. Just good luck getting all the votes.
Yeah, PSP is heavily against Obamacare. Actually, we would kind of like to
Heavily
expand
against Obamacare.
I'm sorry,
Excuse
heavily
me, what?
against proposing a bill to
Excuse
repeal
me,
Obamacare.
what?
We are against the bill to repeal Obamacare. We want to expand Obamacare, if anything. I'm sorry. I'm messing up my words. We are against the bill to repeal Obamacare. We are for Obamacare itself.
Can't believe you would say such a thing on a hot mic, especially since it is being recorded.
I know. Oh man.
And we're lucky. Wait, we're lucky. Mr. Bush probably won't take this out of context.
Well, I mean, there's no way you. Oh my God, Mr. Bush, I swear, if he does that. What do you mean, shrimp is
now the
fire?
tidbit of the day is going to be the next video is just going to be a highlight reel of you saying the PSP opposes Obamacare.
JP1 breaking news: the PSP opposes Obamacare.
What? Sure, it's fired. Our days are limited. We are doomed.
I would only vote in favor of a proposition if it was replaced by universal.
Breaking news. After disagreements over Obamacare within the party, Wild Shrimp 48 disbands the PSP.
Yeah, the PSP is disbanded.
I'm gonna silence you, Mr. Ossoff. I'm sorry, but you have been silenced. The entire thing will be uploaded. Yeah, once again, I meant to say that the PSP is opposed to a bill to repeal Obamacare. We are indeed for Obamacare itself. If anything, we would like to expand it. We'll work on that. But once again, Mr. Perdue, you do have like $400 billion in the budget that you can work to get your infrastructure up. And we also want to do something with the environment. So
okay. So yes, the PSP will support the the bill, the welfare reform bill.
Welfare reform, all PSP votes.
All in favor of welfare reform, say aye.
Aye.
Which leaves us with
everything has passed except U.S. territories to states. And then Economic Growth and Lobbying Act, I moved those to the second session agenda. We're also going to do something with gun control and then moon statehood, if that's even going to be a thing. I really don't know.
Okay, are we going to do the U.S. territories to states now?
Yes, Mr. Gore, did you have would you like to announce what you were thinking about this as I proposed the U.S. territories to states?
So I had read the bill. Um, I had read the bill titled U.S. Territories and States and vehemently oppose it. It would give 0.1% of the population of the United States.
Should I get a timer?
I'll start it when I announce it. Okay.
Okay. Well, I kind of
it
have
was-
to get a timer anyways. Let me get my phone. Give me
Get
one
the timer.
second.
So
I'm sending the filibuster resolution to the House. I guess it should be to the Senate. My bad.
Yeah.
Yep, there it is. So if you want, you do have to announce that.
Yeah,
And then,
I had it pulled up, but yeah. So I
One
vehemently oppose it as it would give 0.1% of the population 77% of the legislative power in Congress, 70 times as much as they deserve, and 90 times as much in the Electoral College. And so that is why that I, Al Gore, am now using the filibuster and understand that this will be the only filibuster used this session. And okay, so you can start the timer now.
and I'm starting. Your filibuster has begun.
So normally filibusters are, reading monotonous stuff. And of course, this is only a 10-minute timer as opposed to, speaking for literally as long as possible. But I think that a more appropriate way to do my filibuster would be reading an episode of The West Wing entitled Stackhouse Filibuster about Howard Stackhouse, a senator from Minnesota, filibustering a bill. And so I'm just going to be reading out that script for 10 minutes. Sorry if this is boring, but the president's filibustering a bill from his own party.
Motion
If
to
that's
end
not
the
exciting,
filibuster.
I don't know what is. So, obviously, we got to start. 3 Republican votes no for welfare reform. But yes, CJ, voiceover.
I thought David Perdue would be in favor of removing
First of
Social
all,
Security.
happy birthday. Second of all, let me explain why I'm not on my way there right now. You're not going to believe this, but it's because of a filibuster. Filibuster that no one ever saw coming. Not the Senate leadership, not the party leadership, and not me. Cut to interior of CJ's office. Night. CJ is sitting at her computer, typing an email to her father. A television is on in the background. CJ voice.
Wait, I know this episode.
And if you're angry with me, well, you've got a lot of company. I'm going to explain all this right now. Friday night, and everyone is trying to get out the door, only I won't let them. Cut to interior Sam's office. Night. A television is shown to be on C-SPAN 2, broadcasting the U.S. Senate live. A Democratic senator from Minnesota, Howard Stackhouse, all caps, has the floor and is reading from a recipe book. Howard Stackhouse, non-absorbent paper, yields approximately 4 servings. Are you kidding me? That's hilarious. It is hilarious. Thank you. Sam is watching the television, looking quite dismayed. Sam, to himself, this isn't happening. Sam looks at his watch as Stackhouse continues to read. Sauce or chili sauce. Sam spots CJ in the communications office. Sam, CJ, yeah. Sam, what the hell is going on? Sorry, what the hell is he doing? Sam and CJ walk through into the corridor. CJ, it's a recipe for deep fried fantail shrimp. It is a script of the West Wing. Sam, yeah. But what's he still doing up there? CJ, he's got a recipe book. Sam, how long will it go? CJ, I don't know. I'm saying, how many recipes are there? CJ, altogether? Sam, yeah. CJ, I can't cook, but I think there are probably like 20 or 30. Sam, you're screwing around with me. CJ, oh yeah. Sam, I'm about to miss the 7:30 shuttle. If I miss the 8:30, I miss the last train to Sag Harbor. CJ is handed a piece of paper by a staffer. CJ, you can spend the night in New York. Sam, I've only got 2 nights, and you've got to see this house. CJ, it's cool? Sam, it's a Frank Lloyd Wright. Isn't it cold in Sag Harbor right now? Sam, we wear sweaters. It's a Tommy Hilfiger ad? I don't know what that is. CJ, can't last forever. Sam, he's got 20 or 30 recipes he can still read. Sam stops walking while CJ continues through swinging doors into the Josh's bullpen. Still talking to him. CJ, Sam, seriously, there are more recipes than that. Sam, who cares? He's blowing my weekend in the Hamptons. CJ, maybe he doesn't know about the sweaters. Sam turns around and walks away. 3 minutes, 7 to go. Oh, dang, I'm already 3 minutes in. That's cool.
You're at 3:30.
CJ, voiceover. The reason they need to stick around was that the moment the filibuster is over, there will be a vote. And once they vote, I need my spin voice. CJ is walking through Josh's bullpen. Josh, CJ, I know. Josh jumps up from his chair and walks with CJ through the bullpen. Who gave him the recipe book? CJ, I really don't think we can blame this on the recipe book. Plus, I now know the secret to cold asparagus chantilly in a quarter cup whipped cream. Josh, I'm going to Port St. Lucie, which might which may not mean anything to you, but happens to be the spring training home of CJ, the New York Jets. Yes, you've told me. Josh, you can watch basketball on TV. Josh, yes, except the New York Knicks are a basketball team and the New York Jets are a football team, and Port St. Lucie is the spring training home of the New York. CJ, exasperated.
Would anybody
Yes.
like to?
Yes,
I'm sorry.
damn it, I'm inadequate. Anybody like to start what?
I was going to say, would anybody like to? I don't know if we can do this. Have a vote to succumb
I mean,
to the filibuster and just move it to the next, so we don't have to go
you're
over
gonna
5
move
minutes.
the filibuster. Josh,
I am quite enjoying this episode right now.
Okay,
I mean, it's very
continue.
Josh stops at the bottom of a small staircase that leads to the briefing room, while CJ continues. CJ stops at the top to listen to Josh. Josh, a weekend at spring training. Mike Piazza is going to be standing in the batting cage. Strikes batting pose. He's going to turn around and see me. He's going to say, "Dude, CJ. Well, I wouldn't want you to miss a legitimate dude sighting." Josh, excited. "So can I take off?" CJ, "No." CJ walks into the press briefing room full of reporters. CJ, voiceover. "Why do I need the spin? Because it's a bipartisan bill, and I'm all for bipartisanship as long as we get the credit. So I've taken the press corps hostage." The moment CJ enters and heads for the podium, all of the reporters start calling her name. A television in the room is tuned to Stackhouse on C-SPAN 2 as he continues to talk. CJ, "Guys, I'm sorry, but you know what? Listen, seriously, you're looking at democracy at work. It's a beautiful thing." Reporter 1, "And how much more beauty can we be expecting tonight, CJ?" CJ, "Well, I wouldn't think it'd be that much longer." Reporter 2, "He's got a recipe book." CJ, "Yeah, but how many recipes can there be? 20? 30? Another reporter, Mark, rushes up to CJ. Mark, in a loud whisper, "CJ, it's Friday night. I'm supposed to have dinner with my girlfriend. She's gonna kill me." CJ, "Yeah, but you know what, Mark? This is just the kind of thing that can cleanse the palate of a relationship that's gone stale. Like a fine sorbet." Mark, "We've been going out 3 weeks." CJ, "And she's already talking about dinner?" Mark, CJ, loser. Mark goes back to his seat as CJ walks behind the podium. The reporters start to call her name again. CJ, "Listen up. Everybody, this was unforeseen. Obviously, he's got to finish sometime. When he does, there will be a vote immediately. When it's done, the president will make his calls, White House staff will be available for comment, and most important, you will all write about it. In the meantime, I say, pizza for everybody. Who's with me?" The room is silent. CJ, "Excellent." CJ gathers her papers and leaves. Carol meets her outside the door and follows CJ through the hallways. CJ, "We're gonna need like a massive truckload of pizza. And I don't know, maybe some Cuervo 1800 if we've got it lying around." Carol, "How much?" CJ, "Just enough for me." Toby approaches. Toby, "CJ, just so you know, I need to be at Tellyrood first thing in the morning." CJ, "That's a rough assignment you pulled there." Toby, "No, I'm saying if I already missed the 6:50 to Denver, but I can catch an 8:40 from Nashville if I change planes in Chicago." CJ and Toby enter CJ's office. Toby is bouncing his pink rubber ball. CJ, "And as your travel agent, it's important that you update me on that information." Toby, CJ, "I'm supposed to be on my way to Napa right now for my dad's 70th birthday. You hear me complaining?" Toby, "You just did." CJ, "Get out." CJ sits behind her desk with her computer. Toby, "It's your dad's 70th birthday?" CJ, "Yeah." Toby, "You doing anything?" CJ, "Yeah, we're all getting together in Napa." Toby, quietly, "I mean right now." CJ, "No, I'm sitting and waiting. I'm ordering pizza. I'm catching up on emails." Toby, "All right. I got a basketball game on in my office if you want to come by." CJ, "Is it the Jets and the Mets?" Toby, "It's the Nets and the Hawks." With disdain, "The Jets and the Mets?" CJ, "I know the teams. I'm joking when I do this. Toby, "Okay." Toby turns to leave and turns back around. "You know there's a 9 o'clock to SFO. You could drive to Napa." CJ, "Yeah." Toby, "All right, I'm in my office." CJ turns to look at the television where Stackhouse is still speaking. CJ, "It'll end." Toby, "Do you have any idea how many recipes there are?" CJ, "I really don't." Toby leaves. Stackhouse on TV. Teaspoon of dry mustard. CJ begins to type. CJ in voiceover.
Sounds like a good recipe.
So,
Teaspoon
I
of
mean,
dried
it really
mustard.
is. So,
The press is in the briefing room. The staff is in the West Wing.
minute 30
And
left.
I'm right here. I'm betting when you read this, you're going to be glad I stayed. I'm betting you're going to end up rooting for a Minnesota senator named Howard Stackhouse. Because I got to tell you, this doesn't seem like any old filibuster. Smash cut to main title. Wait, we're not even in Act 1 yet. Damn. This is longer than I anticipated. Fade in. Exit Washington, D.C. Night. Exterior, not exit. CJ, voiceover. It's our first filibuster. And I'm not a rules expert, but the rules of a filibuster are simple enough. Fade to interior CJ's office. Night. CJ continues typing her email. CJ, you keep the floor as long as you hold the floor. What does that mean? It means you can't stop talking ever. You can't eat and you can't drink, which is fine because you can't use the chamber to use the bathroom either. But all that's nothing compared to this. You're not allowed to sit down. You're not allowed to lead on anything, or for that matter, anyone. Started with the bill you'll read about tomorrow morning called the Family Wellness Act. Josh had been leading staffers from the Legislative Liaison Office in negotiations with the conference chairman for weeks. And this last Monday morning, he walked into the Roosevelt room and said, cut to interior of the Roosevelt room.
30 seconds.
Josh enters and seats himself at the table. Josh, we got the Family Wellness Act. Leo, it's done? Josh, yes, sir. Leo, what'd we get? What'd we lose? Josh, we got most of what we wanted in Title 7. I'm bad at math. CJ, that's infant hearing loss? Josh, yeah, we get a hearing test for every child born in the U.S. Sam, what about... Josh, we did not get mandatory tests for children not born in hospitals. Sam, we can live with that. Leo, the Special Needs Adoptions Awareness Program? Josh, right, this is a national campaign to provide information...
Filibuster officially successful. We have entered 10 minutes. Mr. Gore, congratulations on your successful filibuster. You have officially filibustered the U.S. territories to states, which will now be moved to the second session of Congress.
You continue with that script.
It's a pretty good script. The West Wing's a very good show. We're just in Act 1, actually. They're not pretty long. It's just that, when scripts are relatively long for 45-minute shows.
Yeah.
And
so I guess one of the biggest things
they removed it from West Wing from Netflix, so this is the closest thing I get to watching it.
Yeah, it's on HBO Max now, I heard.
I was going to just kind of just say that the U.S. territories to states, the biggest thing to figure out, because I think as Mr. Foote and I had been talking, we were going to keep the House to 435. And then I think the biggest thing then is kind of talking about the Senate and the representation there and how we're going to be entering all those as states. And he left. Okay. Did the president leave?
The president just escaped.
Yeah, he was like, you know what? I successfully filibustered. I'm out. See ya. He still needs to sign everything. Okay, so as I believe Mr. Kinzinger is not here, so I guess I'll act as Senate Majority because Mr. Guardsman is here. But we have currently passed the Fair Tax Act, the Affordable Education Act, the Green Energy Revolution Act, Welfare Reform. U.S. territories to states has been successfully filibustered. The death penalty abolition has been passed. Economic Growth and the Lobbying Act are moved to the next session. Lobbying, and then the Space Force Organization Act has been passed. The Cuban trade embargoes have been lifted. Supreme Court nominations have been passed, and the cabinet nominations have been passed. So I believe we are just about done with our first session. Is there anything, Mr. Foote, I believe I'm going to now read. So what were you saying? So I was going to say that the wording regarding the number of members of the chambers in question should be changed to simple majority from 51 senators because the number... Mr. Gore Mr. President just successfully filibustered that. Well, we could just, I honestly think that every time a new... Well, no, so the way the filibuster works is that this specific filibuster resolution, if he successfully holds the floor for 10 minutes without being interrupted, the bill will now be removed from this session, and we'll be voting on that bill on the next session of Congress. But it was the only filibuster that could be used for this session. You can only use a filibuster once every 24 hours or once every session of Congress, whichever comes first. So it has to be at least 24 hours. So we cannot use a filibuster until tomorrow at about 1:14 p.m. Eastern Standard Time.
I propose legislation that will
That will what? I think you just kind of cut out.
I propose legislation that will outlaw China forever.
I might have brokered a peace treaty with them, so.
Then, bombing begins in 5 minutes.
Well, Mr. Foote, it could be every time we have a session, but that means that somebody has to hold the floor for 10 minutes every time we have a session, and unless, they have something prepared, it's kind of hard to do that. And they can only technically do that to one piece of legislation. I think one of the biggest things is going to be figuring out how the House and the Senate kind of move around. I'm fine with adding seats. I'm fine with not. I think we kind of just need to go there. Mr. Garsman, were you going to say something?
That was the most memorable filibuster I have ever seen. Like he filibustered with a script about filibusters from the West Wing.
I believe you could also do that, Mr. Foote. The filibuster, if a motion, if the Senate Majority Leader or Senate President, whoever's running the Senate chamber, if they believe that somebody has successfully, cut into someone and they were able to say, I motion to end the filibuster, we would then move to a vote which actually only requires 51 votes to end the filibuster and to then vote, because I believe 60 votes is ridiculous. Yeah, Mr. Ossoff and David Perdue, they were just going at it during the filibuster. They went to the back. They were out back, just hammering it out. So I am believing this to be. Does anybody else have anything on the agenda? Because I'm kind of good with adjourning the Senate.
Well then,
Mr. Clinton is just typing something once he gets the or not. Well. Well, the Senate is officially adjourned. Mr. Speaker, would you like to officially adjourn the House? Nice. Well, congratulations on an extremely successful session, everybody. We got a lot of stuff passed. I also have the record. I will be sending in the officially passed legislation. I will send every single thing that got passed, and I will try and calculate the votes. I don't know if I'm going to be able to necessarily calculate the votes, but I can tell you which parties supported the bills and which parties, and so we'll then have Mr. Gore get that all signed up a little bit later.
that's it for the second session, Mr. Clinton.
Oh, yeah, so basically, so second session as of now will have moon statehood, if that's going to happen. I don't know if that's going to happen. But we will have gun control, economic growth, lobbying act, and then the U.S. territories to states. That's on the second session agenda. I have everything written down. The second session agenda may also have the Senate see a China peace treaty to get ratified. And then there's also, and then the Cuban trade embargoes have indeed been lifted, so I get to put a nice check mark in that. And then we will be going over everything. I want to thank everybody for coming. I missed Mr. Bush. If you want to end your recording of the session, I will be looking forward to watching that later. And then I guess supposedly this is indeed the actual picture of the Senate right now. And I know I kind of sent that in the House. Let me send that. Actually, hold on. Let me send that in the Senate. This is the official Senate right now.
Is the black one the Jim Pickens?
No, that's the Patriot Party.
Oh, too bad.
Cool. Yeah, I'm gonna be heading out. I want to thank everybody. I have some things to do today other than this. So, great start to the Congress, like Mr. Ossoff said, and we will be having a second session. Maybe later this week. It's likely that we're gonna eventually be possibly like holding a session of the House and then pass something, and then the Senate has to do that later. But no matter what, I will make sure that if the PSP is not just gonna, convene and then pass something, I will make sure that everybody has adequate information. So if they do want to contest something, they can show up, or even if they just want to say, "Hey, I'm not going to be able to be here. Could you guys hold off on, presenting this?" Because I want to avoid.
Sorry.
No, yeah, go ahead.
I have. Could I be the director of INGSOC, the international new? What was it? I thought of the acronym. What was it? It was. Wait. Let me think about the acronym. I'll be right back to you.
Yes, I was just gonna say I don't want the PSP to just kind of like hold a session every night and then just pass a bunch of stuff and then nobody gets to challenge it, because everybody should have a chance to contest a bill. It probably will not get passed. It'll probably get passed anyways, but maybe some sort of compromise can be reached. But so yes, but I will let everybody know if we are gonna have another session. And I just wanted to say thank you, and then Mr. Garsman, if you think of the acronym, send it, because I do have to be heading out right now. So I'll see you guys later. Ciao.
Okay. Bye.
Bye. officially taken control. It is 12:05 on the East Coast, and we are ready to just about get this party started. Once everybody gets in. Ah, Mr. Foot, how do you do?